Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. So, inshallah, in this lesson, we'll be going through the poem The Fly from Songs of Experience by William Blake. So, let us begin now. Little fly, thy summer's play, my thoughtless hand has brushed away. Am not I a fly like thee, or art not thou a man like me? For I dance and drink and sing till some blind hand shall brush my wing. If thought is life and strength and breath, and the want of thought is death, then am I a happy fly if I live or if I die. So the fly begins with a feeling of regret. The speaker suddenly realizes that he has accidentally killed a fly. Feeling sorry, he speaks to it kindly, calling it a little fly, and says that his careless hand has ended its summer play, yani कि ended its beautiful life. So his tone makes it seem as if he has killed something much more important, like a small bird, not just a fly. So it is actually very easy to kill a fly without thinking. जैसे कि because flies are small and fragile, so they can be brushed away accidentally or killed by a quick reflex, like when one hand lands on one's face. Uh, why? Because of the fly. So that is an immediate reflex when a person slaps himself when the fly sits on the face. So, and in the process, in doing so, he kills the fly. So, because flies are so small and fragile, they can be killed easily by any quick reflex. So, when the speaker says that his thoughtless hand did it, so it suggests that the action was automatic, not something that he planned. It wasn't something which he did deliberately. So usually people don't even notice when they kill a fly. But this speaker stops and thinks about it. He reflects over it. He talks to the fly as if it was alive and enjoying its summer play, meaning that it had its own life and experiences, just like the speaker has his own life and experiences. So at first, the readers might think the poem is simply about how short and fragile life is. Flies often represent death. क्यों? Because they are easy to kill and are found around dead things. However, the poem goes deeper than that. The speaker is not only thinking about that, but also about the idea that both fly and I, यानी कि the both fly and क्या कहते हैं and himself, they are living things, very similar living things, and they're not only living things, but they are thinking beings also. Both of them think, both of them have emotions. So the poem explores the connection between the body and the mind. So this may surprise readers because the poem looks very simple. It has five short stanzas with short rhythmic lines like little fly and a rhyme scheme that sounds like a nursery rhyme. But as in many of songs of innocence and experience, poems written by William Blake, the simplicity is numerous times misleading. The poem actually deals with deep and complex ideas. Okay, ji. So, am not I a fly like thee, or art not thou a man like me? So, in the first stanza, the speaker feels strong empathy for the little fly. This feeling makes him ask a deep question. वो क्या है? Am I not a fly like you? Okay, so at first, this question seems to mean that life is just as fragile as a fly's life. The speaker is basically saying, couldn't I also die suddenly without getting any warning, just like you died suddenly? But then the idea becomes more complicated when he reverses the question. Reverse क्या हुआ? Or art not thou a man like me? So if a human can be compared to a fly, then the speaker seems to suggest that a fly could also be compared to a human. ये प्रॉब्लम वाली बात है. ओके ना, ये कॉम्प्लिकेटेड बात है. So at this point readers may feel confused. It is one thing to say that humans are like flies because they both can die quickly and unexpectedly and suddenly, but it is very different to say that a fly is also like a human being. There is a clear difference between the two. क्यों? क्योंकि humans can think, imagine, and use symbols, while flies cannot. So the comparison does not work equally in both directions. Because of this, the questions are not as simple as they seem. They are meant to make us think more deeply. Okay? For I dance and drink and sing till some blind hand shall brush my wings. So, to explain why he thinks a fly and a man are almost the same, the speaker says that both live in similar ways. Just like the fly enjoying its summer's play, he says that he will dance and drink and sing until some blind hand suddenly ends his life. So he believes that both humans and flies enjoy simple pleasures until death comes unexpectedly. So there are important repeated ideas here. In the first stanza, the speaker's thoughtless hand killed the fly. Now he imagines that some blind hand will one day kill him in the same way. So this makes death seem random and meaningless. He doesn't even care much about what his blind hand is. It could be fate, gods, or God. To him, it is just some unknown force. So the speaker also describes his life as full of pleasure, dancing, drinking, and singing like 17 time happily at a party. He thinks that this is not very different from the fly's simple enjoyment of life. So his attitude is quite simple. Life is about enjoying yourself, and then one day you die without really knowing or caring why. If thought is life, and strength and breath and the want of thought is death, then am I a happy fly if I live or if I die? Okay, if thought is life. Okay, so in the first few stanzas, the speaker seems kind and gentle. He feels sorry for killing the fly and tries to comfort himself by thinking that both he and the fly are in the same situation. He believes that life for both humans and flies is just about enjoying yourself until death suddenly ends everything. So his main idea becomes clearer in this fourth stanza. Here, the speaker is saying that life is simply a physical process. He believes that thought or consciousness is the same as being alive, just like breathing or having strength. So, when thought disappears, यानी कि thought चला गया तो क्या आ गई? That is death. So in other words, when you die, your consciousness ends completely. However, the lines can also be understood differently. They might suggest that thought actually creates life, and when thought disappears, life ends. This idea helps explain why the speaker thinks humans and flies are basically the same. Both are just living bodies, and when they die, their consciousness disappears. So, from this point of view, it doesn't really matter whether they live or die because once they are dead, they won't be aware of anything. So, because of this belief, the speaker thinks that there is no need to worry too much about that, like the fly. He just wants to dance and drink and sing and enjoy life. So, the stanza begins with the word if. Okay, na? If thought is life. इसका क्या मतलब हुआ? That he isn't sure himself. Okay, so this shows uncertainty. It suggests that his belief may not be fully true. So, also earlier in the poem, he described his hand as thoughtless, even though he himself is alive and thinking. तो इसका तो ये वो consciousness वाले idea से contradiction आ गया. So if thought is the same as life, then how can a living part of him act without thought? This shows that his argument is not completely consistent. Okay, with this, we move on to the last stanza. Then, am I a happy fly if I live or if I die? So, the previous stanza begins with the word if, where the speaker shared his idea. In the final stanza, he follows it with a then. Okay, he argues that if consciousness is only a biological process, then he can be a happy fly whether he is alive or dead. So, according to the speaker, there is no real difference between a fly and a human. Both are just living bodies enjoying life. Consciousness only exists while the body is alive. So there is nothing to fear in life or death. While alive, one can dance and drink and sing and enjoy life. When dead, one will not feel or care about anything because consciousness will end. So he concludes, why worry whether he kills a fly or is killed himself? It does not really matter. Okay, the life and death is about the presence and absence of consciousness. Okay, so however, throughout the poem, there are hints that the poet, ये तो speaker है ना, but there are hints that the poet William Blake does not fully agree with the speaker. Earlier, the idea that man is equal to fly, therefore fly equals to man, it already seemed questionable. The word if also shows that the speaker's argument is uncertain. So, readers who know Blake's ideas understand that he did not support this kind of materialistic thinking. In his view, the world is full of deeper meaning and spiritual value. For example, even a bird flying in the sky can represent something vast and beautiful beyond what our five senses can fully understand. So, by showing the speaker's limited and sometimes contradictory thinking, the poem suggests that materialism is not enough to explain life. It presents it as a way of avoiding deeper questions, almost like giving up and living without truly understanding the mystery of existence. Okay. So with this, we move on to the themes of the poem. There are two themes. The first theme is death, mortality, and pleasure. So the poem reflects on how short life is and how unpredictable death can be. The speaker feels sorry for killing a life and compares its sudden death to how humans might also die unexpectedly. He believes life has no deeper meaning. So people should simply enjoy it while they can. Okay. However, the poem subtly suggests that the speaker's ideas are limited. Blake hints that the comparison between humans and flies and the belief that life is meaningless may not be entirely correct, encouraging readers to question the speaker's point of view. Second theme is the mystery and wonder of existence. So the poem shows a speaker who, after killing a fly, reflects that humans and flies are essentially the same. He believes both only have consciousness while they are alive, and since death ends awareness completely, there is nothing to fear. So one should simply enjoy life. However, the poem subtly questions this idea. The speaker's comparisons and assumptions, like humans being the same as flies, are not fully convincing. Blake suggests that this materialistic view oversimplifies life, and the human existence and consciousness are far more complex and mysterious than the speaker realizes. Let us now move on to the symbols present in the fly. The speaker takes the fly he's just squashed as a symbol of death and mortality. In doing so, he is drawing on ancient tradition, flies both easily squished and associated with the rotting corpses are doubly appropriate as images of life's briefness. So, in saying that he is a fly, the speaker is saying that his life is just as brief and fragile as that of the fly he just hit. With this, we move on to the poetic devices of this poem, the first one being the metaphor. So, the main idea in the poem is the comparison between the speaker and the fly. So, the speaker says that he is like the fly and the fly is like him. This raises important questions in the poem. At first, when the speaker compares himself to a fly, he is using a common idea. Flies represent how short and fragile life is. Like in King Lear, where humans are compared to flies killed by careless forces, the speaker suggests that people can also be killed suddenly without reason by fate or God. However, the comparison becomes more complicated when he says that if he is like a fly, then the fly must also be like a human being. He believes that both humans and flies enjoy life in the same way, dance and drink and sing until they die. He also thinks that both lose their thought, yani ke consciousness completely when life ends. This idea reflects a materialistic view, the belief that consciousness is just a physical process and that all living beings are basically the same. So, according to this view, both humans and flies are just living bodies enjoying life until they die. But William Blake likely did not agree with this idea. Blake believed that life has a deeper spiritual meaning beyond the physical world. So, by using this simple comparison, the poem encourages readers to think about what the speaker is missing and to question the speaker's limited understanding of life. The next little device happens to be the rhetorical question. The second stanza, the speaker asks two questions. Am not I a fly like thee, or art not thou a man like me? On one level, he is asking whether humans and flies are both equally likely to die. So, flies are often used as symbols of how short life is because they can be easily killed. So, the speaker is using this traditional idea. But his claim goes further. He's not only saying that he is like a fly, but also that the fly is like him. At this point, the readers may think the questions are not so simple. They may not be just rhetorical. They could make us think about the big differences between humans and flies. For example, humans have complex thoughts and consciousness, while flies do not. So, the speaker's materialistic idea that humans and flies are basically the same may not be completely correct. It is one thing to say both can die suddenly, but it is another to say they are essentially identical. This idea goes against William Blake's belief in a world filled with deeper spiritual meaning. Because of this, the poet may be using irony. The speaker thinks his questions are obvious and logical, but they are actually open to doubt. The word if in if thought is life also shows uncertainty. So these hints suggest that the poet may not agree with the speaker. Even the speaker's pity for the fly suggests that he feels that life is more meaningful than just simple physical existence and death. I hope you understood this point. Okay. With next literary device is alliteration. Okay, the D alliteration and the B alliteration. So the poem uses alliteration in the third stanza. Okay, especially the repeating D and B sounds along with the S sound also. Shall, brush, okay, and dance and sing. So these repeated sounds make the lines musical and pleasant to hear. They match the ideas of dancing, drinking, and singing, helping the reader imagine the speaker enjoying life. There is also consonance. Okay, na? यानी कि the repetition of ND and this shall brush. Okay, and wing अपना hand and जैसे कि blind. Okay, so this ND sound. Okay, this is consonance. And then there is assonance also, the sound of E. Okay, drink E and sing. Okay, na? And wing. Okay, this is innocence. So these sound patterns make the poem more rhythmic and flowing. Overall, these sound devices make the speaker's idea of enjoying life more lively and energetic. Now let us move on to the form, meter, and the rhyme scheme of the poem. The Fly, like many poems and songs of innocence and experience, looks very simple but explores deep ideas. It is made up of five short stanzas, each with four lines. The lines are very short, often only a few words long, and each word is important. The rhythm is simple with two main stresses in each line. At first, the poem seems easy to understand and uses a familiar symbol. Flies have long been used in literature to represent how short life is. However, as in many of Blake's poems, there is more meaning underneath. The idea that thought is life and strength and breath is not stated as a fact. It begins with a big if, which shows that it is uncertain and open to question. Let us now move on to the meter. The Fly is written in dimeter. Okay, na? So each line uses two strong stanzas. Then I. देखो इसके अंदर कोई पैटर्न नहीं है बस पैटर्न क्या है देर आर टू स्ट्रेसेस इन ईच लाइन ओके बट दिस इज नॉट अ कंसिस्टेंट पैटर्न ऑफ अ मेट्रिकल फीड ओके ना जैसे कि आयम्बिक होता है ट्रोकेक होता है सो if you're going to listen to the rhythm, then happy fly. Okay, so there are two stresses. This meter is actually known as accentual meter. What is it known as? Wait a minute. This is known as accentual meter. Okay, na? And so those one, two stresses hit like marching feet or a hand pounding a table, perhaps thoughtlessly, whacking a fly on the way. So these short, punchy lines give the poem a deceptive simplicity. Perhaps they even help to suggest the oversimplicity of the speaker's worldview. So let us now move on to the rhyme scheme. So this poem mostly uses a simple rhyme pattern that is ABCB. This pattern is old and familiar, often found in ballads and nursery rhymes. Blake often used this kind of simple rhythm and rhyme in songs of innocence and experience, so he could express deep ideas in an easy, simple form. However, there is an important change in the final stanza where the rhyme pattern becomes double A, B, A. So this neat and repeated rhyme in the last stanza makes the speaker's conclusion that living and dying are equally happy sound simple and certain, as if the problem is fully solved. But the poem may actually be questioning this idea. The word if in if thought is life shows that the speaker's belief is uncertain and not completely reliable. With this, we end this lesson. I hope you understood this poem. If you've got any questions, please feel free to ask. Jazakallah. Assalamu alaikum.